Good morning. Welcome to This Family Does Everything. I know it's been a long time. I was working on a compilation video, which takes forever, and on top of an overseas screening, it just took a long time. But I was doing this video last night while actually working on the compilation, and then I came across this interview or this cross-examination, and I was absolutely blown away by how he treats this pastor. So let's sit back, watch, and analyze the Darrell Brooks trial.
My name is Matthew Witter, Matthew, and then last name Witter, Widd as in dog, ER.
Thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
Sir, how are you employed?
I'm the pastor of the Catholic community of Waukesha for four Catholic churches in the city of Waukesha.
And what are those Catholic churches?
So St. William, St. Joseph, St. Mary, and St. John Newman. We're also associated with Waukesha Catholic, the school.
Okay, thank you. And when you say the Catholic community of Waukesha, 4 parishes, and you're the pastor at all 4?
Exactly, yep. There's 4 of us priests. I'm the pastor. There's 2 other priests and a team, that kind of works together.
So you actually do sermons or services at each of the 4 churches?
Yep, exactly. So the 4 of us priests kind of go around and exactly wherever we're called to be. We're kind of on a bit of a rotation, but we're at all those 4 churches.
Okay. Direct your attention to November 21st of last year. Were you at the City of Waukesha Christmas Parade?
Exactly. I was the Catholic community of Waukesha Catholic. We're walking in the parade.
Okay. And when you say, were there just one group of people, or when you said the school and the church?
Yeah, we were one group.
Okay.
One group.
Did you have a float or anything?
We did not have a float. There was a banner, and the banner was kind of being carried at different times by a different amount of people, but otherwise we were walking different proximity to the front and back. We were spread out a little bit.
Approximately how many people were in that group that day?
Probably between 40 and 50.
Was there any type of formation?
There wasn't like I think at different times we were probably closer together, at different times we were more spread out. As the parades went on, I think, some people walk faster, some slower.
And no uniform, or did everyone wear the same type of shirt or sweatshirt?
We didn't have, no, it was somewhat cold, so we had different, kind of trying to stay, generally speaking, warm. We had some little, very small kind of lights that we're kind of carrying, very small, just kind of that sense of, not everyone had them, I didn't have one, but that sense of kind of bringing the light of Christ into Christmas. And
Thank you. I'm going to show you a variety of exhibits. First, I'm going to publish them or put them on the screen in front of you, and I'll direct your attention there. I'll ask you some questions about them, okay? So first, I'm going to start with Exhibit 129. And let me know when you see that exhibit in front of you.
okay, yep, I see it.
Okay. And have you seen that picture before?
Yep, I have.
And do you know who that was taken by?
I believe it was taken by Jason Peckloff. He's at least the person that I saw the picture from, so it was probably circulated, but yeah.
Okay. Do you know when it was taken?
It was taken before the parade started with some of the group.
Okay. So this wasn't all the people in your group?
Not everyone, but a chunk of people.
Okay. Are you familiar with pretty much everyone within this picture?
Yep.
And there are names that are associated with certain people who we are considering injured parties in this matter. Do you see those names?
I do.
Do you see the arrows that are associated between the people and the name?
I do.
Can you briefly look at that and let me know if those names are correctly associated with the correct people?
Yeah, to the best of my ability. Juan Marquez is kind of in the back. That's a difficult one to say. It's probably him on that angle. I couldn't say like 100%, but very, very probable.
I would ask the court to admit Exhibit 129 into evidence and publish it for the jury. Would ask the court to publish.
The objection is overruled. Exhibit 129 is received and permission to publish is granted.
Can you briefly kind of go over the people who are named and their relationship with the other people in this picture? For example, I see
Yep.
some kids with the last name Perales Alvarez.
Exactly. Yep.
Can you kind of describe what their relationship is to one another?
Exactly. Yep. So Yamilet and Ashley, they're and then next to them unnamed is Yashleen. They're the daughters of Maria Alvarez Dominguez, as his name. You just say Alvarez Perales, actually.
Okay.
And then Jose Perales Alvarez.
Okay.
So those are connected there.
Okay.
And then Benjamin and Elliot Hallmark are siblings. Some of their other siblings are there too.
Okay.
Gregoria Romelia, she usually goes by Romy Perez, and Camila on the far left, that's mother and daughter.
Okay.
And then Juan in the back, his son David is up front. His head is kind of ducked to the side.
Okay.
So those would be the relationship connections.
How about Adair Lopez Revelar?
Objection, leading the witness.
Adair is
Hold on, there's been an objection. I need to rule on it. The objection's noted. It's overruled. And you may answer.
so Adair is his mother Marisol was also in the parade. She's not in the picture though.
And how about Maria Alvarez Dominguez? I don't know if you addressed her yet.
Oh, yeah. Maria is she's the mother, and I forgot Eileen. I know I was missing someone. Eileen is on the far right. So Eileen with the A, Yamilet, Ashley are and then Yashleen, who's doesn't have a name box by her. They're the kids of Maria and Jose, who's got just barely see the red hood.
And does this accurately reflect kind of the clothing that they were wearing while they were marching in the parade on November 21st of last year?
I believe so.
Okay. I'm now going to direct you to Exhibit 128 because I thought so can you identify the person depicted in that photograph 128?
Yeah. So as it says, that'd be David.
Okay,
He'd be
so
one
that
of
is
the
correct.
younger kids.
He was kind of hidden a little bit in Exhibit 129, so I wanted to get a better picture of him. I'd ask that this be admitted into evidence. I'm sorry, was this taken on the day of the parade? Does it appear?
It would definitely appear. I'm not familiar with the picture, but it would definitely appear.
That appears to be the street that you guys
Exactly.
walked on
Yep,
and the clothing
definitely.
that he was
Objection,
wearing.
leading the witness.
Overruled. Father, do me a favor and just wait until the question is fully asked before you answer it. I know it can be very easy to anticipate, but the very nice lady in front of you is taking down a record of everything that's said, and it just makes her job a little bit more difficult if that happens. It's okay. So hopefully his answer was clear. If not, you can re-ask.
And I'm sorry, that accurately reflects what you believed you would have seen on November 21st of last year.
Yes.
I would ask that Exhibit 128 be admitted into evidence and published to the jury.
Objection.
Exhibit 128 is received and permission to publish is granted. The objection is overruled.
Now I'm also going to then show you on the screen in front of you Exhibit 121. Let me know when that's showing in front of you.
It is.
Okay. You had indicated that in front of the group was a banner. Is this consistent with what you're seeing, or can you describe generally what you're seeing in Exhibit 121?
That would be our group, somewhat close to the beginning of the parade route. So that's the banner. That's Bob carrying it on one side, and Jason Pekloff, as is noted, on the other side, where there's St. Matthias in the background. St. Joseph is kind of right in front of that, towards the beginning of the route.
Okay. And there are other names that are associated with people. There's a box with their name with a red arrow going from the person to the name. Are all of those correctly diagrammed?
Camila certainly is. Jason certainly is. Adair certainly is. Maria certainly is. Juan, I couldn't say definitively that that's him. And Jose Perales, I believe that's him, but I couldn't say definitively on that particular angle.
Okay. And with regard to Jason Peckloff, specifically, since we've identified the other people in this photograph through Exhibit 129, that is Jason Peckloff, and he's correctly named in this diagram?
Yeah, definitely.
Objection. Everybody was not positively identified.
I would note that the witness identified most with certainty, others without. So the jury should just keep that in mind at this point. I don't believe there's been an offer, though, or a request to receive it just yet. So I'll withhold any of that.
And Your Honor, I'm going to move Exhibit 121 into evidence, ask that it be published with the understanding that Father Witter indicated that Jose Perales Alvarez and Juan Marquez, it would be consistent, but he cannot say with 100% positivity that those are those two individuals.
Objection. It was not said with certainty whatsoever. The answer was he's not sure.
Exhibit 121 is received as noted by the state. Permission to publish is granted.
Sir, again, in looking at this exhibit, which is 121, other than Jose Perales Alvarez and Juan Marquez, which you indicated you weren't positive about, the other people whose names are and arrows are on that picture, you can positively identify them?
100%.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 122. And again, is this consistent with a picture that was taken at the very beginning of the parade where the other picture was taken from?
That's correct.
Okay. And there are two names associated with two individuals on this picture. Can you positively identify that those individuals are the people in this picture?
Objection. Leading the witness.
Overruled.
Yeah, William Mitchell and Yamilet Perales, that would be 100% certain.
Thank you. I would ask the court to admit Exhibit 122 into evidence and publish it for the jury.
Exhibit 122 has received permission to publish. Granted.
And again, this accurately reflects the identity of William Mitchell. If you can just circle William Mitchell in the photograph, it is a touch screen in front of you.
I should.
And Yamilet Perales Alvarez. Thank you. Moving on to Exhibit 123. Can you identify the individuals who are named in this exhibit?
Objection. The names are on there.
Question was whether he could identify the individuals who are named. So
That's a big arrow pointing to here.
your objections noted. It's overruled. You may answer the question.
So each of the people, Benjamin Hallmark, that arrow is correct. Maria Perez, that is correct. That is Luke Hallmark. Marisol, that would be Marisol. And then Gregoria, I would say 100%. I would attest to that picture.
And again, does this look to be taken in the same vicinity as the other pictures I've shown to you?
It definitely, it's towards the beginning of the route. Exactly. That's probably St. Matthias right there, and St. Joseph be right in front of us.
I'd ask the court to admit Exhibit 123 into evidence and to publish it for the jury.
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled. Exhibit 123 has received permission to publish is granted.
Again, sir, I'm just going to ask you to circle the people associated with the names as I call them out. Benjamin Hallmark, I think you had previously identified in Exhibit 129, but where is he? And if you can circle him. Okay. And Maria Perez.
Maria.
Luke Hallmark. Marisol Lopez Gutierrez. And Gregorio Romelia Perez, I think you said you know her as Romy.
Yeah, she also goes by Romy.
Thank you. I'm now going to show you State's Exhibit 124. And let me know when you see it, I'm sorry. And just this again, looks like it's taken from the same angle as the prior exhibits. Do you see the name of Elliot Hallmark and Father Pat Heppy?
I do.
And are the arrows associated with the people that you know as Elliot Hallmark and Father Pat Heppy?
Objection, leading the witness.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yep, 100%.
Thank
Those
you.
those would be correct.
Thank you. I would ask the court to admit Exhibit 124 and publish it for the jury.
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled. Exhibit 124 is received and permission to publish is granted.
And again, just to clarify for the jury, Elliot Hallmark, can you circle him? And Father Pat Heppy, can you circle him? Now, was he one of the other three pastors?
Exactly. Yep, Father Pat is the pastor emeritus in the Catholic community of Waukesha, so he's one of the four of us priests.
Okay, thank you. And finally, I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 125. Let me know when it's on your screen.
Yep.
And the final two of the people that we did not identify in that first picture, Exhibit 129, Lori Loken and Margaret Pekulis, and she goes by Peggy. Do you see them in this picture?
I do.
Are they correctly identified?
They are.
I'd ask and again, this photograph is taken at the same location as the others?
Yep.
Okay. I'd ask the court to admit Exhibit 125 and allow it to be published for the jury.
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled. Exhibit 125 is received and permission to publish is granted.
Thank you. And if you can circle Lori Loken and Margaret Pekulis. Thank you. We can take this exhibit down. Do you recall as you were marching or walking in the parade, what group was in front of you?
The group, in terms of, we were, the Catholic Memorial Group was the group in front of us. Behind us were the Dancing Grannies.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for. What, at some point, was your attention drawn to something during the parade? Something unusual?
Yeah, so we were, all of a sudden kind of heard a scream, and, my experience was I turned to my left, and there was a red SUV just flying down the road. My next experience would be kind of hearing it, kind of striking people.
And I'm gonna just, because we have to put that on the record, that you put your fist to your
Yeah,
palm of your
just,
hand,
yeah.
making a striking noise.
Yep, just kind of like a
Objection, leading the
pounding
witness.
sound, I guess you'd call it.
Overruled. The description may stand. Keep going.
Thank you.
Next question.
How many times did you hear that?
So for
Objection,
me,
leading the witness.
Overruled. You may answer.
I heard 2 times.
Where were you when you were marching in this group? Were you as you're walking down Main Street, were you on the right-hand side of the group, which would be, I don't know why I can't get this right. The right side would be, I believe, the north. Or were you on the left-hand side of the street, which would be the south? Or were you in the middle?
I was more towards the right-hand side of the street.
And did you look back? And you said you looked back and saw the red SUV, correct?
Yeah, the way I would describe it is if the car would have hit me, it would have hit me. I kind of saw it as it was entering into our group.
And the 2 impacts that you heard, did you see those impacts?
My mind blocks that part out of it, so I couldn't say who was hit in those impacts. What I could say is that my next encounter was that there were 3 people from our group that I don't believe would have been the ones with impact that were lying more or less right in my immediate path.
So 2 right in front of you on the right-hand side of the street
Yep.
as you testified?
On the right-hand side. Those were the first, the 3 people that I was right by then.
And before that car went through, were those 3 people on the ground?
Definitely not.
Where did this impact take place? Do you know approximately where on the parade route?
Yeah, so it would have been past Curry Insurance. There would have been, I believe it's Main Street Bar and Grill, and then there's kind of an unnamed bar, and then there's Planned Parenthood. So those would be it's kind of a Main Street, between Main Street and that kind of unnamed bars where it happened.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked and admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit 15. It will not only be, I'd ask that it be published as well.
Go ahead. Exhibit received.
Objection, how many times do you need to publish the same picture?
Your objection's noted. It's overruled.
On this picture, there are different groups that appear to be on this picture. Can you describe, what does this appear to be a map of?
Yeah, that would be Main Street. That'd be our groups, all the groups of the parade.
And do you see your
it
group
was-
on this map?
I do.
Would it be in the left-hand side of Exhibit 15?
Objection, leading the witness.
Sustained. Hold on. Sustained. Please rephrase.
Where would you see, you said you saw your group, where do you see your group on this map?
On this map, our group is furthest to my left.
Can you circle it? And that would be, in that arrow, or I'm sorry, that star that you circled, then is attached to a list of names, is that correct?
Objection, leading the witness.
Sustained. Please rephrase.
Yes. Do you see a list of names and an arrow on that map?
Objection, leading the witness.
Overruled. You may answer.
I do.
And where does that, do you recognize the names that are on that map?
Objection, leading the witness.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yep, I recognize all those names.
And it appears that approximately how many names are on that list?
Objection, leading the witness.
Overruled.
19.
Didn't mean to test you. And were all those people, to your knowledge, injured as a result of being struck by or indirectly struck by the vehicle in the parade?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. We can take Exhibit 15 down. So when you looked around and saw the red SUV, did you hear the impacts first, or did you see the red SUV first?
I saw the red SUV just flying on the left side. I mean, flying is a relative word, but it was, going fast. It was going faster than anyone in their right mind would be driving in that scenario.
Could you estimate the speed?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer.
From being on that street in other occasions and kind of walking over there, the speed limit is 25. The car, in my estimation, was going faster than I would see a car driving in normal times down that street.
So in excess of 25 miles per hour?
Objection, hearsay, leading the witness.
Not hearsay. It's a clarification question. Your objection noted. It's overruled. You may answer.
I would say yes.
Now, when you said that you saw the red SUV coming to your left, I know you described your path of travel being on the right side
Exactly.
of the road. So it's to the left of you. Would it be more towards the middle of your group or to the left of your group? Or on the left-hand side of your group?
I would say it was on my left.
Okay. So you're not sure how far away it was when it passed you?
No, it was on my left. I was not struck. It was on my left. It wasn't.
Did you see who was driving the vehicle?
I did not.
After the vehicle, did the vehicle go past your group? Did it drive past your group?
I believe it did. I saw it just fly by, and my attention immediately was drawn towards the three people that were on the ground in my vicinity.
After the car went by, did you ever see the car stop?
I simply I saw the car fly by, and then the next thing I knew, there were three people in front of me on the ground. So my attention went right there.
Did you see anyone else on the ground after the car passed, other than the three people you initially saw?
There were other, so all around them, there were different kind of, as time played out, kind of pockets of people.
Can you describe who you saw after the car went through who appeared to be injured?
So the three people that were in my path were Father Patrick Heppy, and then Maria Perez, and Bill Mitchell.
Did they all appear to be injured?
Yes.
And did you meet with those people after the parade? Did you talk to them or meet with them?
Yeah, so my attention was really drawn towards those three. They were kind of right there. Father Pat was, he was kind of completely knocked out, and then he kind of came to, and he was kind of put on the side of the road. And then I more or less stayed by Maria Perez on the side. She was in agonizing pain. There were some other people that came. William Mitchell was also there, also with severe injuries and major pain. So I more or less stayed there. And then Father Pat and I, being priests, we live in the same, we call it the rectory, or the house. So when he went into the hospital, I joined him to go. And then so my next immediate experience was going to the hospital and then encountering more of the people that were in our group who were already at the hospital.
So the three people you had direct contact with would have been Maria Perez, William Mitchell or Bill Mitchell, and Father Heppy.
That's correct.
Objection, leading the witness.
I believe that's what his testimony just was.
Correct. It's overruled.
And you went to which hospital?
So Father Pat was taken by a squad to Waukesha Memorial, so I joined them in going to that hospital.
Did you see any other people that you had observed on that list on Exhibit 15 at Waukesha Memorial Hospital?
Yes, I did.
What observations did you make there of the people you saw?
Yep, so immediately I saw Eileen Perales, who was sitting off to the side with some facial issues and some other injuries. So Father Pat was he was placed in a room, and I kind of was helping Eileen a little bit. And then there was also Peggy Pachulis, was also in the waiting room already when I got there.
Did she have any observable injuries?
She had, her ankle was splinted already. She was waiting. And then shortly after that, then Benjamin and Elliot Hallmark were also in the general waiting room. And I ended up also seeing them. And then my next experience would be with the different situations in families, it became apparent that unfortunately some families were split apart in different injuries. And so I was with there was CAT scans that needed to be done on some of the children. So there were 4 beds. And I was, especially with Benjamin and Elliot Hallmark, their parents were out. And then it also turned out that Eileen and Ashley Perales also then were waiting CAT scans. So that would have been my next encounter.
What injuries did you observe on those individuals?
So at the time, I mean, Ashley had some, you call it facial lacerations and major injuries there.
And I think you already testified about Eileen. How about Elliot and Benjamin Hallmark?
Yeah, so they were both in, at the time they were getting checked out for brain situations. It was clear Benjamin had a major fracture in his leg, and also a major golf ball coming out of by his eyes. And Elliot also then had some injuries.
And I'm just going to go through the remainder. And if you saw them, or either that night or in the following days, let me know. And if you know that they were injured. Maria Alvarez Dominguez.
Objection. It's hearsay.
It's not hearsay. It's asking about his knowledge, not what he heard. It's
The
so you may
injuries
answer
would
the
be
question.
hearsay.
Maria was injured. I don't know the full scope of her injuries.
Okay.
Hearsay.
And how about Gregorio Romelia Perez?
She was very, very, very severely injured. Major issues.
Could you observe what those injuries were?
Objection. Hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer.
Pelvis fractures, and she was in rehab for about 4 months with still walking with a cane.
She still is walking with a cane?
That's correct.
Lori Loken?
Lori sustained some major heart issues, so she had a major procedure on her heart.
Marisol Lopez Gutierrez?
I don't know the full extent. Marisol was impacted. She suffered I believe, a wrist fracture. Some other major soreness. She's healing.
Adair Lopez Gutierrez?
Adair was the car ran over him. He didn't suffer any major physical injuries, but was impacted.
Juan Marquez?
Juan suffered a major leg fracture, has had a couple surgeries.
David Marquez?
David was struck, took on some bruising, but no major injuries.
Jason Peckloff?
Objection. Hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer.
Jason suffered a severe concussion and some ankle injuries, an ankle injury.
Yamilet Perales Alvarez?
Objection. Hearsay.
Overruled. Go ahead. You may answer.
Jamilet was, came very close to losing her. Major head trauma. Was severely hurt.
Jose Perales Alvarez?
Objection. Hearsay.
Overruled.
Jose also was very severely hurt with leg injuries. He's had about 10 surgeries at this point. Still
And-
walking with a crutch.
And Camila Perez Gonzalez?
Objection. Hearsay.
Overruled.
Camilla had an orthopedic injury. He's had a couple surgeries.
Looking further. Thank you, Father.
Any cross-exam questions for this witness, sir?
I do.
Please proceed.
See. I don't have too many questions for you, Father. Do you recall when you knew for sure that you would be testifying in this matter?
I got an official word on October 1st to plan to be here, I believe, on last Wednesday.
And to the best of your knowledge, do you have any reason why you would be testifying on behalf of an injured party if you are not an injured party?
Mr.
Grounds.
Overruled. You may answer. If he knows.
My thought would be that as the pastor, I would have a more wide-ranging kind of knowledge of different people's situations as a pastor, whereas some people might, that's what I would assume. But
You testified to observing quite a few injuries. How can you assess the injuries just by looking at the people?
Can you clarify what you mean by that? Like, what are you getting at?
For example, if I was to see someone injured laying on the ground, I could essentially say, "Oh, it looks like this," but how can I be certain that that's what it is? So my question is, being that you observed a lot of injuries, how are you able to assess what they were just by looking?
Well, the question mischaracterizes his testimony, so I'm going to ask that you rephrase.
How did you know the injuries just by looking?
It still mischaracterizes his testimony. That's not what he said. He was asked about whether he was aware.
Yeah, that he observed injuries. So how could he know
He observed some, so you need to be specific as what point in
the
time.
injuries that you saw at the hospital? How were you able to say for sure what those injuries were just by observation?
Yeah, so some of it is seeing people at the hospital, and then part of it then is, so there's the immediate seeing people in the hospital, and then there's the later times of seeing people in the hospital or seeing people in other contexts.
So would it be fair to say that you were told those injuries either by medical professionals or by the people?
Exactly. So if people would say, "This is my injury," I would believe them. If they'd be in the hospital, if I see people with crutches, wheelchairs, then I would say that's probably accurate.
But you didn't know for sure yourself until you were told.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not the one diagnosing an injury. I can observe what they say, I can observe what I see, and then if I see people with crutches, wheelchairs,
That's
then
what I
I'm
was
like,
getting at.
there's probably truth there.
Do you know, because you testified to seeing those, some of those people after the incident, would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Do you know if any of the people you saw after the incident filed any claims in the matter?
Could you clarify by what you mean by claims?
Did they file for to be an injured party in the matter, or did they file for any medical bill support or anything of that nature? To your knowledge, do you recall any of that?
We certainly told as many people as possible to get involved in the Waukesha parade support and other means of help. I can't speak specifically for each person what they did or did not do.
Can you explain to the jury what you mean by the support that you are referring to? Was that like a group formed, or was that sort of like an event of a GoFundMe account or something like that? Can you give some clarity on that?
Yeah, there was the Waukesha Parade Fund that was, I think, an international type of thing. There was, our parish had a fund. There were GoFundMes. There were any number of different things. There were different encounters to allow people to come together and talk about what had happened and seek the start of healing from the emotional part of it.
And by international, that would be assuming worldwide. That'd be fair to say?
Yes.
So it would be fair to say that there were financial interests attached to this incident.
Objection is how it relates to this witness's testimony.
Grounds.
Sustained.
I should try to answer the question.
No, I sustained it. You don't have to answer
Okay.
that.
All right.
He can rephrase, but as it relates to how it was asked in this witness, I'm sustaining it.
Well, it was actually because he referred to some GoFundMes being set up and anything. So my question was, being that it was a wide-ranging scope by him saying international,
What's your question? I sustained the objection.
was there any financial interests attached to this incident?
Ken, I'm going to object for the same reasons before.
Grounds.
It's vague, unclear, overly broad. Sustained as to the form of the question.
Any idea how much money was raised for the I guess I would say GoFundMe's, groups, support?
Objection as it relates to this witness
Grounds.
testimony.
I'll allow it a little bit of leeway as it potentially could relate to bias, not of this witness, he made no claim, but go ahead, if he knows. Subject to you following it up with other, I guess, witnesses later on.
I know, so the Catholic community of Waukesha had an opportunity because people wanted to give, and so there was $73,000 that came into the fund that I'm aware of, the Catholic community of Waukesha, that we dispersed in different ways. There's still, I think, $3,000 left. That's for kind of community healing events. What the end of what GoFundMe's reached, what the Waukesha Foundation Fund reached, I don't know. But I know the Catholic community of Waukesha was 73,000. Yeah, the specific, I couldn't say 73 what, but 73,000, I think.
And did that go straight towards the victims to help them in any way?
So an example would be, there are many people that could not work because of being hurt, or they had situations where a loved one was severely hurt and they had to be at home or going to the hospitals, nursing homes, and taking care of them. So there was, and I have no idea the ins and outs of, payment of hospital bills and things like that. But I know people were, they could not go to work because of some of these scenarios.
And you stated you didn't see the vehicle approaching at the time when it got to where you were. Would that be fair to say?
That's correct. It was very close to me when I saw it.
About how close to you did the vehicle come?
The vehicle was on my left side. I saw it probably, very close to when it was on me, I would say, to my left.
So you were on the right side of the street at that
It was on
point?
the right side of the road.
So it'd be fair to say it was on the opposite side of the road from you.
It was on my left. Where on the left? If you show me a picture of the road, like point to where it was on my left, I could not say that it was on my left.
Did it come pretty close to you at any time when it was passing you?
The car did not hit me. It was on my left.
You referred to it as a car, as you just said. Was it a car? Was it an SUV? What was the vehicle?
I would describe it as an SUV, to be specific.
Any reason why you would say car?
Objection argument.
Grounds.
Overruled, he may answer.
For me, people that know me, I'm not a car person, so car is a wide-ranging descriptor to me.
Would it be fair to say you wouldn't call a bus a car, though, right?
Objection argumentative.
Grounds.
That's argumentative, sustained, you don't need to answer that one.
When asked earlier, when you were asked about if you saw anyone else on the ground or something to that effect, you said as time went on, you had observed someone else laying on the ground. Can you explain what you mean by as time went on? Was that a significant time that passed, or a very short time that passed at that point? Do you recall?
My testimony is there were 3 people that were right in front of me, and I really spent time. Father Pat then was taken to the side as he waited for a squad to come. I really stayed with Maria because there weren't a lot of people around there first, so I really kind of focused on staying with her. From looking up and waiting, there'd be officers or, different medical personnel, whether they were, I can't say, what type of personnel there were. People would come and check and kind of evaluate, but I could see other kind of pockets of people.
Did you observe the other pockets of people that weren't with your group being struck at any point in time?
The only experience that I saw was our particular group. At the time of the incident, I had no idea what had taken place behind us.
And would it be fair to say you had no idea what had taken place in front of your group?
As I stated, I only saw what I saw.
At any time when the vehicle was passing you, were you able to see into the vehicle?
The vehicle was going very fast. So I would not have had a picture of who was driving the vehicle.
But you can't estimate a good speed that the vehicle may have been traveling.
My estimation was the vehicle was traveling faster than I would usually see a car traveling down Main Street. So over 25 miles an hour.
So would that be that you said traveling faster than you would see a car traveling down Main Street? Would that be in terms of if there was a parade actively going on, or even without any traffic on Main Street?
If I was at Main Street right now watching cars go past, if I was just on the sidewalk, I would say that the parade was traveling faster than those cars would be traveling.
I'm saying in terms of even if there was no parade, if it was just a normal day.
That's what I'm saying. On a normal day, the car was traveling, in my estimation, faster than you would see a car traveling on a normal day.
And you weren't able to get any description of the driver of the vehicle?
Not at all, no.
Could you at any point tell if there was more than one person in the vehicle?
I would not have been able to, no.
Do you recall being interviewed by any law enforcement at that time?
I was at the hospital, as I indicated before, that night, and there was a law enforcement person that kind of ducked into one of the rooms and asked, a couple questions, what I would have seen, or.
So very brief, not extensive, long, extensive type interview, but very brief, just a few questions.
In the hospital that evening, yes, there was a law enforcement. That was a brief interview.
Did you give any, or were you interviewed by any law enforcement after that night?
I was not interviewed until getting a subpoena about this particular case.
Do you recall when you received that subpoena?
I can't say a specific date. I can say, after that first one, October 1st was when I got the official, to report, to testify to the case. I can't remember what date it was before that.
were you in contact with any law enforcement about this incident leading up to the October 1st subpoena that you received?
Not before I talked to the DA. That first time.
And do you recall what DA that was?
It was Susan and
Excuse me.
Susan.
May the record reflect that there was a right hand gesture towards the prosecution table?
I believe the witness identified our District Attorney Susan Opper as the Susan. The record can reflect that.
And was that October 1st time the only conversation you had with Attorney Opper?
October 1st was when I received a notification that I was to report to court. I spoke with Attorney Susan, sometime in the month before. We spoke once.
But in the month before the October 1st subpoena?
So October 1st is when I formally got the subpoena that I was to come in. It would have been sometime in September where I was, notified to come in and talk to the DA. So I talked to the DA once.
And at that time in September, you weren't yet subpoenaed?
I was, how do I say this? This would be a point of clarification in the sense of I believe that I was subpoenaed to come in and talk to the DA. I'm not sure if that's a subpoena or that's what the correct wording is. I was told to come in and talk to the district. I'm not sure if that's a subpoena, but I believe it would be more than come in if you want to. I believe it was kind of like you need to come in, not if you want, you can, if not, don't. I'm not sure what the terminology for that is, but that's how I would take it. If that's a subpoena.
No, that's not a subpoena. The subpoena is when you actually get the subpoena paperwork by mail, or I don't.
Mr. Brooks, you need to ask a question.
Can I get to it, Your Honor?
No, because you're trying to define something, which would be testifying, which you cannot do at this time. So the jury will disregard his last comment, but go ahead and ask a question of this witness.
You something else. Wow.
Mr. Brooks, that was inappropriate. Do you have any other questions
Yes,
for this
I do.
witness?
Yes,
Please
I do.
ask them.
During your conversations with Attorney Opper in September and October 1st, when you received the subpoena, at that time, were you provided the complaint in this issue?
What do you mean by complaint?
The complaint would be a reference to the charges in this matter. Paperwork that would state the charges.
Objection, Meg.
Grounds.
Oh, Rose, he may answer if he's able.
I mean, to me, seeing what happened and seeing everyone that was hurt,
No.
to me it was very obvious what this was about.
Did you see at any time any paperwork related to the charges in this incident?
So there'd been the subpoena sheet that would have had your name and any number of different.
What do you mean my name? What are you referring to?
I believe it would have said Daryl Brooks on it.
Are you aware that I don't identify by that name?
Objection, argument is
Sustained.
sorry.
So is that what your subpoena said? Was that the language of your subpoena, the logistics?
We've been down this road under 90611, Mr. Brooks. You're not, I need you to ask a relevant question to this witness.
That was relevant. He said what was on his
No,
subpoena.
you've talked at length about the subpoena, so under 90611, move on to a new topic, please.
Are you aware of who the plaintiff is in this matter?
Objection, relevance.
Grounds.
Overruled, he may answer.
I believe that you would be, or excuse me, you're the defendant.
I would be the plaintiff?
Excuse me, at my mind, you're the defendant, I believe. The plaintiff would be.
If you know, do you know who the plaintiff is?
All those who were hurt under the title of the state of Wisconsin. That's how I would identify it.
That's how you identify it. So, do you know if anybody who was hurt that identified as the plaintiff?
Objection, relevance.
Grounds.
I think this witness has testified he's really not sure what the plaintiff is. He kind of guessed. He gave an assumption.
Sustained.
He did.
Foundation.
He did answer the question though.
Sustained. Next question.
So to the best of your knowledge, the plaintiff would be the representative of the people.
Objection is relevance.
Sustained. You're now asking him to make a legal conclusion, which I will not have him do. It's also not relevant.
Do you know if any injured party who claims to be the plaintiff in this matter?
Objection, relevance.
Grounds.
Sustained. Mr. Brooks, under 90611, please move on to a new topic.
Are you aware that only an injured party could be the plaintiff in this incident?
Objection,
Grounds.
relevance.
Sustained also misstates the law. You don't have to answer that. Mr. Brooks, new topic, or under 90611, I will close the cross-examination.
How does that mischaracterize the law? An injured party has to make the claim.
Under 90611, you haven't asked a question. I will give you one more opportunity. Don't question me. Please ask a question of this witness. The jury will disregard his statement as it mischaracterizes the law, and he is not testifying. He's asking questions at this time.
Are you aware that the state of Wisconsin is an entity and cannot claim to be an injured party in this matter?
Objection.
Grounds.
Sustained. All right. Your cross-exam is now closed under 90611. Does the state have any redirect for this witness?
Briefly.
Go ahead.
Sir, prior to the red SUV coming through your group, did you ever hear a horn honking?
Objection.
Overruled. You may answer, sir.
Objection. Hearsay.
It's not hearsay.
I personally didn't, but
That's fine. Now I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 15 again and ask that that be published to the jury. This has already been admitted into evidence.
Go ahead.
Objection. What was the answer to the last question?
The record speaks for itself. Next, the witness can consider the annotations.
And again, you previously identified the individuals in the Catholic Communities of Waukesha box. In looking at that box again, were all those people on the road as part of the Catholic Communities of Waukesha when the red SUV went through?
Objection, leading the witness.
Overruled. You may answer, sir.
Definitely, 100%.
And we can take that exhibit off the screen. One final question. When you spoke with District Attorney Susan Opper in your meeting that you testified to, did she ever tell you what to say today?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled. You questioned his credibility. You questioned his talking to the state. He may answer the question.
The only
Go
reason
ahead.
why I'm objecting, Your Honor, is because
Your objection's noted.
Attorney Opper is not asking the question, so how would Attorney Basie know what
Mr.
Attorney Opper
Brooks,
said?
I'm not going to explain the legal procedures. Go ahead, ask the question. You may answer when she does. Do you recall the question?
Yeah, I do. She did not.
Okay.
No.
Did she tell you to tell the truth today?
Objection, relevancy.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
Everything that you testified today, is it truthful?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
Nothing further, thank you.
All right, Nathan, you may step down. I would like to get through one more witness, but I want to take a short comfort break for everyone, so I'll rise for the jury. Mr. Brooks, not now.
Not allowed to.
Not now. The jury is in this courtroom, and you will show respect for them and for this court.
Respect for them would
Mr.
be
Brooks.
telling them the truth.
Stop. I'm putting you on notice that you are on the verge of this court creating a curative instruction about your frivolous arguments. I will not have you claim legitimacy for what are debunked, frivolous, sovereign arguments.
Then
That is why
prove it.
your questions
Prove it.
are being
Prove that it's
objected
frivolous.
to,
Prove
and
that
why
it's frivolous. Prove it.
all the cases that we've already referenced, sir. We are in recess. We'll be back
And
in
prove
5
it.
minutes. Thank you, everyone.
I don't agree to an estoppel. Can you prove?